Hi, I'm Leonie and welcome to my channel. Now today's episode is quite different to usual, but I asked you over on my community tab if you have any questions. It's been a long time that I've done a Q&A type video here on my channel, so I thought it was time to do one of these videos and see what questions you guys come up with. Now you didn't disappoint. There was sort of all sorts of questions, from personal kind of romantic type questions to hormonal / HRT menopause type questions. And of course there are plenty of fashion questions too. So thank you to everyone that asked those questions. I've actually got a little piece of paper over here with the questions all printed out. So I'm going to grab that and just jump right into it. Okay, now the first question is, what advice do you have for someone whose weight changes a lot? It's hard to build a wardrobe when you fluctuate sizes so much. Now that's so true. It really is hard to build a wardrobe when your size or weight goes up and down. Now, there aren't too many people that I know that this doesn't happen to, even if it's just a few pounds here and there. So I suppose the first answer to this question, it's kind of a bit of a two-part thing, I think. Now, the first answer would be, it obviously depends on how much your weight fluctuates. If you go up a couple of sizes, then that becomes extremely tricky. If you just tend to put on a few pounds here and there and some of your pants and skirts get a little bit tight, what I generally tend to say is there are so many options these days with either not necessarily fully elasticated waistbands, because I don't always advocate for that, but waistbands in pants and skirts that have a panel, and it's usually at the back that is elasticated. And if you don't like the look of this, you can always hide it with a belt. But what I do think is that these pants tend to give you that flexibility. They just tend to give you that little bit of breathing room that sometimes we all need. Now, the other thing that I tend to do, because my weight fluctuates as well, I'm only human, and I definitely do tend to go up and down in weight a little bit, and it's certainly a seasonal thing for me as well. I probably comfort eat a little bit more in the winter and definitely put on a few pounds. But what I do try and do to keep my weight at a level that means that I'm not having to change out my clothes and my wardrobe is that I do have at least one pair of pants or jeans that fit me perfectly, and by that I mean they're not stretch, they are quite snug. And I always say that these are the pants that kind of keep me in check. I spend a lot of my time wearing stretchy waistbands and active wear and sweatpants and really comfy clothes. I work from home, so it does make sense that I'm comfortable. But what I do tend to find with this is that it's so easy to sort of relax into these stretchy clothes and just continue to fill them out without even realizing. So I always make sure that I, from time to time, wear some of my snugger pieces, or at least try them on. And these pieces tend to keep me real. So if I find that they're just a little bit too snug, I take action and just do a few things to try and pull that back a little bit so that I don't end up putting on too much weight. And when I pull it back, what I do tend to do is I just reduce some of my portion sizes. I lay off some of the processed carbs like bread, pasta, rice. Those sorts of things definitely tend to make me retain water, feel a little bit more bloated. And I also check my snacking, because usually that's the trick for me. I don't kind of realize, but I start snacking a little bit more during the day, and that's when the weight creeps on for me. So I just kind of keep a check of those things and find that if I give it a couple of weeks, I'll try on those same pants or jeans or whatever they are, and generally they've just loosened up a little bit. So there's not an easy fix to this one. It's not easy, but that is what I do personally. Now, the next question here is, do I have any tips on styling navy? For some reason, I have trouble pairing it with other clothes to create outfits. Now, I think navy is one of those colors that you just need to treat in the same way that you would treat any neutral. It's a little bit like black, but it's a softer kind of take on black. So I personally love navy. Navy pairs back beautifully with white to kind of freshen it up a little bit. Tans and neutrals work really well with navy, so your sort of taupes and camely type colours. Also denim. Denim is a great way to wear your navy pieces and add in a little bit of white there, a little bit of neutral, navy and some beautiful hot pinks or even blush pinks or even sort of duck egg, pastel-y cornflower blues work well with navy. So there are plenty of ways to style navy, and if you do need some inspiration, I would suggest doing what I often do when it comes to just needing a little bit of inspo to style some of my pieces. Say for instance you've got a great pair of navy pants, I would whip on over to the internet, type in navy pants street style, and you'll see a whole lot of images popping up with some great outfit options. And what that hopefully will do is show you some color combinations or some pieces that you may actually already own in your wardrobe that you can kind of use to create some interesting outfits with your navy pieces. And obviously this goes for anything. It's always about shopping your own wardrobe, but you do need that inspiration first. So whether you Google street style images or if you whip on over to Pinterest, type in the pieces that you've got and then try and have a look at some of those outfit combinations, some colors that are working well in those outfits, and I bet you'll be surprised that you'll probably own similar pieces or similar colors that you hadn't even thought of styling them back with. So navy is a good one because there should be plenty of inspirational outfit options to choose from. So whip online and have a little look. Now the next question is, what clothing pieces do I naturally gravitate towards these days, and what are my favourite ways of styling them? Now this is a goodie because I did touch on this before, and so essentially I do gravitate towards more sort of casual, comfy style clothes. Most of my wardrobe these days is very much casual wear with just a little bit of a modern twist. I have sort of three areas of my life that I really need my clothes for. One is working from home and doing things like walking my dogs. The other is sort of more smart casual, because even though I do work from home, I like to get dressed each morning and feel like I've made an effort. That is always good for making me just feel a little bit happier. If I look good, I definitely feel good. So I need that sort of casual but still comfortable clothing to just sort of wear most days. And then from a work perspective, I like to have some outfits that I can wear out and dress up, and if I get invited to events or launches or PR things, I definitely tend to opt for pieces that are a little bit more dressy as well. I am absolutely loving maxi skirts these days. As I get older, I'm less comfortable, I suppose, showing off my legs, so I feel like there are so many great maxi skirt options available. And when it comes to styling most of my clothes these days, I really love trainers. I'm especially loving all the colourful trainer options at the moment. I bought into the Adidas Sambas and really love wearing my white Sambas. I have got so much wear out of them. I also love my New Balance 327s. I've got a number of different pairs of those. So I do think when it comes to styling some of my favourite pieces, I'm very much opting for comfy footwear and styling back most of the things that I wear with sneakers. Next up is a personal question, and these two are kind of similar. Someone asked me whether I'm dating, and the other person asked how my boyfriend's health is. So I do have a boyfriend. We've been together for almost 6 years now, and as many of you will know, he had a liver transplant 12 months ago, and it's been a very up and down ride over the last 12 months with his health, and he's been through a lot. Anyone who has had any major surgery will appreciate that the recovery is never linear. There's definitely sort of ups and downs along the way, and that's what he's gone through. And in fact, 2 days from now, so possibly when this video is live, he is having another major operation, essentially to replumb his new liver in. And this is something that does or can happen with liver transplant patients. It's an unfortunate thing that sort of happens from time to time, but he has to go in and have once again major surgery, and unfortunately I'm not going to be there for it. He was originally going to come over here to the US with me, and he needed this surgery, so at the very last minute he had to cancel his trip with me, and he is at home. So yeah, it's really hard for both of us. I wish that I was there for him. And he certainly wishes that he was here traveling and spending time in the US with me. And the reason that I didn't opt to stay home and be there for his surgery is because I'm over here with my son, who is about to start his senior year of high school. So I wanted to come here and help relocate my son for his final year. He's moving to kind of North Carolina, Virginia way to attend his final year of high school, and I wanted to be here for him for that. Yeah, it's a pretty emotional time, but I'm just trying my best not to kind of overthink it and try and go with the flow, because I'm certainly also counting down the days to saying goodbye to my son once again. It had been 8 months since I'd been here in the States and spent time with him, so that's always hard. He's my baby. I miss him hugely when I'm back in New Zealand and he's here in the States. He's been here for nearly 2 years now, so he's been here since he was 16. So it's really, yeah, it's a lot. But I love coming here and spending time with him. And for those of you that don't know, he's on a basketball scholarship over here, so he is living his dream. And I'm so excited that he is getting this opportunity to live out those dreams. So he is embarking on the next step in that process, which is his final year at a military school, and I think that in itself is going to be really interesting. Now, I did have another question about hormone replacement therapy and if I take it and my opinion. And yes, I started taking HRT, or I started using HRT, because I actually use the little patches. I think mine are called, I can't remember the name, it might be Estradot or something like that. I'll put a little image up of what I use here on the screen. And I think I got my first hot flush and quickly raced to the doctors and said, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to go through this, what can I do? And essentially had a blood test. And yes, I was starting the menopause phase, so got straight onto the patches, which are really easy. You change them twice a week. It's a little patch that you put on somewhere underneath your belly button. And yeah, I'm absolutely no expert. All I know is that I have been using these patches for probably 7 years now, and I feel really blessed that I haven't had to go through any of those negative, nasty side effects of menopause, and I've still been able to exercise. I probably do get a bit of brain fog, there you go, say no more, from time to time, but it's really probably nothing more than I've had my whole life. So that's how I deal with menopause and kind of trying to avoid having to deal with the nasty side of it. Now, this next question is a really interesting one, and someone asked me, do I think the days of individual style are over? Now, I can see why you would easily think that, but I actually think that we have more opportunity now than ever before to create our own individual style. And I can see why we'll see lots of visuals on the internet here or on Instagram or wherever you sort of consume your content. And it's so easy to kind of copy someone else's style and get caught up in that. But I think if we sort of try and stick true to our own personal style values, then we can use those other images and other people's style as inspiration to push our own style further than perhaps we would have pushed it if we hadn't had that inspiration. So I'm not sure if that's quite answering the question, but I definitely do think that we have now more option than ever before to push our individual style a little further than perhaps we were comfortable doing so in the past. Now, this next one is an interesting one, and it's a tricky one also, because I was asked if any subscribers make me feel uncomfortable. And I presume the basis of this question was getting negativity or negative comments here. And I think the longer I've been on YouTube, the easier it's become for me to just take those sorts of comments and criticisms more lightly, I suppose. And I think everyone has an opinion, and sometimes those opinions can be a little hurtful. And what I always do try and remind myself when I get a negative comment or something that I see as a little bit of a personal insult is that I remind myself that those comments are fairly few and far between. I mostly get lots of really positive, really good, constructive comments, and those comments far outweigh any negativity I get. So when I do get something, and if it stings a little bit when I read it, I do just remind myself that this is the minority. And also sometimes if you are objective about it, and if I read some of these comments objectively, there is often a little bit of truth there that kind of guides me in a slightly different way. Now, I don't sort of put too much store in some of that negativity, but sometimes some of the nastiest comments, they may be kind of presented in a way that comes across really brash and nasty and hurtful, but there is some sort of little gem of potential advice in there that I take as well. And so I suppose my answer to this is I try and take the good out of it if there is any, and often you guys also come to my defense, which I find really, really nice. Like, I'll often get a number of you, if there is a negative comment and someone being a little bit nasty, you guys all kind of come and pitch on in there. And not that I am encouraging you to do that, but it is always nice to know that a lot of you are actually on the same page as me. You think the same way that I do, and you'll know that if I've said something that's offended someone or done something that's offended someone, that I didn't mean it, and you know where I'm coming from. So I do really appreciate that. But I think if you put yourself out on the internet, you do open yourself up to all sorts of criticisms, and the key for me is making sure that I just don't take some of that nastiness personally. Now, the next question is, what's the biggest difference you see in New Zealand, Australia fashion predictions versus European or US fashion predictions? Now, let me put my questions down. Now, that's a really good one, because I think there is often some confusion there. And certainly for me, I worked in magazines as a magazine editor for 15 years, worked in magazines for 20 years in total. And one of the magazines that I edited was a fashion magazine. So one, we were always used to looking at fashion trends that were, say, coming out of Europe and coming out of the US. And those European international trends were guiding some of the fashion trends that were happening in New Zealand. So we've always been, in my mind, a little bit behind. Although in saying that, I think the internet has made some huge changes, and certainly what we do see now is in New Zealand and Australia is very current and up to date. And obviously we travel a lot as well, so even though our seasons are opposite, we might take off in our winter and want a summer vacation, and we want to be wearing the latest and greatest. So we do have those options available as well. So I think we still take our influence from Europe and the US, but I do think that there is less in terms of a lag in fashion, if that makes sense. The world has definitely become smaller, and that has had an impact on fashion, but certainly the trends that I see in the US, for example, say for the current summer trends, those are the trends that will be drip fed down to Australia and New Zealand for our summer, which is kind of heading our way in sort of December 2024. So we're definitely still behind down under, but the gap has narrowed, if that makes sense. Now, this next one is a goodie too, and someone has asked me, do you think that quiet luxury and more minimalist style has affected the overall slowdown occurring with recycling of trends? It seems that trends are not necessarily changing at the rate they did 10 years ago. Now, that's an interesting one, and I've kind of got a couple of thoughts on this. I don't think that minimalist fashion and sort of the quiet luxury trend has had an impact on the fashion industry as a whole. I like what they stand for and I like where they're going, and I think that more and more people are looking into slow fashion and making sure that we kind of recycle more and maybe look at capsule wardrobes so that we're investing in pieces that are going to be lasting longer and less affected by trends. But I do think that the fashion industry is still moving at a crazy rate. I do think that trends are still being spewed out very, very quickly, and that turnover of fashion is really still very fast. I can see why it would be easy to think that perhaps these other things have sort of come into play and slowed things down a little bit. I think that they're great. I think that we do need to slow down. And certainly for me, while I talk a lot about trends on this channel, I do think trends need to be a guide for us when it comes to fashion, but we definitely have to be mindful that we aren't a slave to these trends, and not all trends are going to work for everyone, which is why I sort of try and make sure that I cover off on all sorts of different trends when it comes to each season. I find trends fascinating because I'm guided by them, I'm excited by them, and that's what I get from them. I get excited to try different things with the clothes that I own and to wear some of my clothes in different ways. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to go out and buy every new trend that's on sale or that's being highlighted as the it piece. I just use trends as a guide. I think the fashion industry still has a long, long way to go to slow things down. But I think that that's definitely happening. I think that it's something that we can all kind of focus on. And certainly for me, I'm really buying far less than I've ever bought before. And that's probably my way of just making my tiny little difference when it comes to fashion. I still always want to enjoy fashion and get excited about it, but it doesn't mean that I have to buy everything that I love. Now, this question definitely makes me feel some type of way, and I totally understand it. I totally get it. I do remember, and it was probably in my early 40s when I started sort of just even being aware of dressing age appropriately. And I think over the last few years, I've really kind of pushed back on that, because I always say with fashion, if you love something, it makes you feel great, then wear it regardless. But in saying that, I do know that there are certain stages and times in your life when your kids are a certain age or when you're a certain age that you do feel the need to dress in an age-appropriate kind of way. You don't want to look like you're dressing like your teenage daughters or trying to compete with them. So I do understand the dilemma. I think the easiest way to work around this and still be true to your own sense of style and to dress comfortably is to find your muse. Find someone who is a similar age to you and you love the way they dress. You feel that their style is age appropriate and is going to work for your lifestyle and your fashion needs, and just take some inspiration from them. See how they style their clothes. I mean, I definitely do this all the time. There are Instagrammers that I follow that are a similar age to me, or perhaps they're in their 40s, but their style really resonates with me, and I'm inspired by them all the time. And it doesn't mean that I'm plagiarizing their looks or I'm copying or I need to look like them, but it just it's just great because they inspire me to do more things with the clothes that I currently own. Even I get busy, life gets busy, and I get stuck in a little bit of a rut. And for me, I want to look age appropriate, but feel like myself and feel modern and fashion forward and still get to enjoy fashion. I definitely think that you can do that. It does feel like you're walking a bit of a tightrope with that, but I think the easiest way, and certainly the way that works for me, is to find someone who suits your style and is doing it really well, and get inspired by them and just have a bit of a play in your wardrobe. Try and create a little bit of I don't like really saying uniform as such, but try and create a whole lot of outfits that are going to fit that bill for you. It's definitely possible, but it does require a little bit of homework and also finding those people. I find Instagram really great for that, but also Pinterest is a good way to find some of your fashion muses as well. I hope that answered that question. Okay, I've just had to put my specs on for this one because I thought that I should just check and see if there were any more questions, and there are, and this is a real goodie. So this one is, how do you handle multiples? How many t-shirts, blazers, jeans, sneakers are too many? This isn't just a decluttering problem for me. Sometimes I find a perfect basic, like a button-down shirt, and I buy two. But is that really a symptom of a boring wardrobe or a boring uniform? Okay, so the easy answer to this one is no, I don't think it is the symptom of a boring outfit or a boring uniform, as long as you are creating outfits with these pieces that you absolutely love. Now, I think that that's the key. If these multiples are just hanging in your wardrobe and they're not being worn, then I think that it's not a problem, but it just means that they're not necessary, that you're kind of buying them as a security blanket or a bit of a safety net, and perhaps not pushing your style or evolving your style because you're feeling safe. But as I said, if you're wearing all of these multiples regularly, then I don't see a problem with it at all. I definitely think that if you're buying multiples and you're loving them, you're using them to create lots of different outfits and you're getting the wear out of them, then there's nothing boring about that. But yeah, if you are buying them and a number of them are just hanging there, then I definitely think it's time to rethink these pieces and make sure that these multiples aren't getting in the way of you evolving your style and trying something new. Anyway, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, I'd love you to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.